are arguably even more important to the interior of Alaska than the big side of the airport, because over 80% of Alaska is not connected to a road system. Think about that for a minute. Like 80% of our state is so remote that you can't get there by road. So how do you get there? Airplane is the major way. They're at the bottom of the hill on this property. So the short version of that is that they built a farm in the wilderness on federal land. They staked out the corners. They built a house and lived in it for 5 years, and they turned part of
the main body to pontoons on either side.
Okay, so we're at the Yukon River Camp. We're still 16 miles from the Arctic Circle. We stopped here. Took us about 4 hours to get here. Actually took that back. I think it's closer to 4 hours, so almost 6 hours to get here. Anyway, we still got quite a bit to go. This whole entire tour is like 16 hours. But it gives you a little bit of idea of the outpost here. The Alaska pipeline is right over there. A little later on, when the tour guide comes up after having lunch, we'll have a chance to talk. In fact, you can see the pipeline there a little further in the distance there. But it's a quaint little place. Can't imagine what it's like here in the winter, but it's probably pretty tough. Anyway, talk a little more later.
The funny thing about this bridge, they didn't finish it until 1975.
Oh, really?
So they started, like they already had the road to Yukon River built. And then in 74, they built the road away from Yukon River all the way north, but there was still no way to get across the river. So in the summer, that first year, they used a hovercraft, like an amphibious vehicle left over from Vietnam.
Military days, yep.
Yep, there was tons of military
Yeah,
surplus
yep.
used on the pipeline. And you can see down the river, there's kind of a flat spot
Yep,
with some little entryways to the water.
yep.
And there's a road that we passed on our way here called Hovercraft Road that would take a truck, around and down to the water.
Right, so it was
So-
big enough for trucks instead
Yeah.
of stuff like
Oh,
that.
the hovercraft could take 3 semis at a time.
Wow.
I know. Insanely big. And then in the winter. So what you're looking at is the sleeve on the outside of the pipeline, right? The pipe itself is 48-inch diameter, half-inch steel, and on the outside of that is 3 3/4 inches of foam insulation all the way around. And then on the outside of that is the sleeve that you're looking at. So you can see that there's rusty spots on the sleeve. That just now means pipeline is rusting out. It sits on top of these brown shoes
Got valves up there. Is that water?
that have little Teflon sliders on the bottom of them.
Yeah.
Right? Just like your non-stick pots and pans.
Yeah.
And those Teflon sliders are just sitting on that crossbeam.
That's air pressure. That's what.
And they're allowed to scoot back and forth along that horizontal member. Why would you not want them just screwed down and attached?
Metal cold expansion. Metal expansion.
That's one reason, but actually it doesn't change depending on the outside temperature. It changes upon the oil's temperature. The oil is hot, so you put more hot oil in, and you do get a little bit of expansion. You take some oil out, and you get a little contraction.
Hotter
But
the
that's
oil.
not the main reason.
Hotter the oil, less viscous. Is that what it is?
The main one has to do with what we have every 15 minutes in Alaska.
Lower
An
Craig,
earthquake.
tremor.
15 minutes?
Every 15 minutes in Alaska, there's an earthquake.
I didn't feel any ever
We don't feel it. You don't feel most of them.
I mean, all the way on the road, you felt it. What are you talking about?
There's an earthquake app that you can put on your phone that will literally tell you every time there's an earthquake above a given threshold. So you can look at like only earthquakes that are 4.0s or only earthquakes that are 6 or above. You won't get very many notifications on those usually. But every once, my best friend has this on her phone because she works in PR at the university, and she likes to know if one of our buildings is about to fall down. Like if one of our, one of our campuses statewide gets hit by an earthquake, like she wants to know about it as it's happening. So it's constant. Like it has a special little alarm beep, and it does its thing, and I'm like, oh, that's an earthquake, isn't it? And she's like, oh yes, it's really big, but it's in the Aleutians. No people anywhere. Perfect. So so that's why they don't glue the whole pipeline nice and solid together. It's actually engineered to withstand. Because there's ice, if you put a steel pipe full of hot oil through the ice cube, what happens? The ice melts, and then the soil goes boom, and then you get a break and weld, and then you get an oil spill, and nobody wants an oil spill, right?
So it's really bad news if the permafrost melts out from under this pipeline. So we make sure that it doesn't by literally refrigerating it from the inside. With those two heat pumps. They literally pump heat out of the ground. Heat pumps are thermosiphons. They siphon heat out of the ground. And they only work this time of year because in the winter everything's frozen anyway. It does not matter. But in the summertime, you know, that like I'm feeling heat.
There were excesses, there were things that went wrong, and certainly there was chaos. You put a project together like this, you're let down. You think you have problems. A small war, not done.
You're on Finger Rock Mountain up in Alaska. You see Finger Rock up in the distance out there. Okay, so here we are at the Arctic Circle. Finally arrived after about a good maybe 9 hours of travel, maybe 8. I'm not watch handy, so I haven't looked. I can take a little look. Yep, left at 6:30 this morning. It's 3:30 in the afternoon right now. So it's quite a trek to get here. I think it's like a 16-17 hour round trip for this particular excursion. So that's pretty cool. So here it is, basically we're taking the bus tour. That's the bus that we're going to go back on. I was talking earlier about the Arctic Circle, but just give you a good old roundabout of the area, and we're going to be heading back in a few minutes. But there it is, Arctic Circle. Talking to one of the passengers, they say those who visit Alaska, of those, only maybe less than 1% come up to visit the Arctic Circle. So, hey, we're in a small company.
North, where there's a tree line in latitude. So we were just talking about latitude when it had to do with the Arctic Circle, but there's also a tree line north of which trees cannot grow. Because you're just so far north that it gets so cold in the winter. And there's permafrost, right? There's permafrost creating soil conditions that exclude a lot of trees. Because only black spruce can really survive on permafrost, like these black spruce all around us right now. But as you go north of the Brooks Range, you reach a point where there are no more trees. And then you're on the Arctic coastal plain, right? And you've literally entered the Arctic tundra. In this part of the world, the Arctic really look a lot alike. And they really act a lot alike, too. Alaska is 43% wetlands. It's a very wet place. One of the reasons that we have so many wetlands is permafrost. So you can think about the icy soil acting like a great big bowl made of ice. If you pour some water in it, where does the water go? It doesn't soak into the ice, right? It might even freeze to the ice that's already there. Nice healthy soil at the bottom of your compost heap. Instead, it gives you this poorly decomposed, kind of compressed soil type that's mostly made of organic matter called peat. Peat moss is another way that people talk about it. You can buy peat in the store, right? At a garden center, because sometimes people have fill dirt in their yard and they want to add some organic material to make a nice garden so their flowers and food will grow better. And you can buy peat that has been mined out of a peat bog, just like this. Just like this. And look at the extent of these peat bogs, right? They go as far as the eye can see. I mean, until you get to either a river or, the base of a mountain. But there's many, many, many